Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to highlights of the 2011 Formula SimRacing World Championship. Round 5 of the championship is the rerunning of the Malaysian Grand Prix. Set at the Sepang International Circuit, the drivers will run 56 laps around the 5.5 kilometre long course. The track is noted for its fast sweeping turns and two very long straights, separated by just one tight hairpin. Qualifying saw the reigning world champion Bono Huis take his second pole position of the season, and the twister racing cars of a.k.a. and Fredrik Nilsson would again start in second and third. Too Fast For You had an impressive session, with Blair Disley getting into fourth and David Greco into fifth. The NetRex cars of Marquez and Hurl qualified in sixth and eighth, separated by the Aero F1 car of Jon-Erik Saxon. Last round's pole sitter Jarkko Mikkonen could only manage 9th in qualifying, and Ala Fott made it inside the top 10 in his a.k.a. Silverline car. Karel Poniatowski narrowly missed out on the top 10, as did Mikko Pumalainen, who qualified a disappointing 12th. Reino Room was starting 13th, and Lucas Euler couldn't repeat his impressive performance at Turkey, starting down in 14th position. Off the start line, all of the frontrunners once again had more or less an equal launch. Kirchhoff immediately moved into Huis' slipstream but couldn't carry enough speed to make a passing attempt. Greco moved to the outside and outbroke Disley, and Mikkonen had an excellent run into turn 1, gaining 3 positions. The rest of the field made it through the opening corners with only some minor contact between the drivers. As the pack made its way out of turn 2, the biggest winners were Mikkonen, de Wit, Tali and Keithley, all of whom had gained several positions. Into turn 4, Greco made a clean pass on Nilsson for third, and Hurl outbroke Saxon to move up into 8th. Aero F1 driver Karel Poniatowski then tapped the back of his teammate Saxon, allowing both de Wit and Tali to continue their move up through the field. As de Wit and Tali squabbled over 9th place, Poniatowski again outbroke himself, and running over the curb he lost control, with Pumalainen having to take evasive action. By the end of the first lap, Huis had managed to create a crucial 1 second gap back to Kirchhoff. Then it was Greco, Nilsson, Disley, Mikkonen and the two NetRex cars. De Wit held on to 9th ahead of Tali and Saxon, but further behind things got messy, with 5 drivers trying to squeeze into turn 1 together. Driving up the inside, Jim Parisis made contact with Pumalainen, and Lucas Euler hit the back of Reino Room, losing his front wing in the process. In the battle for 12th place, a.k.a. Silverline driver Ala Fott was desperately trying to hold on to his position ahead of Poniatowski and teammate Morgan Morand. Despite holding off the opposition through the first corner complex, a sideways moment through turns 7 and 8 saw the Estonian lose out to both drivers, dropping down into 14th. Morand then put a move on Poniatowski, getting alongside into turn 1, and while the Aero F1 car initially maintained his position, Morand managed to make an impressive pass around the outside to take 12th place. Just ahead, Patrick de Wit and Rasmus Tali continued to fight over 9th place, with the drivers switching positions on several occasions. Jon-Erik Saxon patiently waited behind for a mistake from the battling duo, but by now Morand had caught back up to the Finn, and he made a bold pass to move up into 11th position. Morand then made light work of de Wit, passing him on the following lap for 10th. At the front, Bono Huis' precision car was very slowly edging away from Atsej Kirchhoff's twister machine, and further behind, David Greco could not shake Fredrik Nilsson off his back. Disley remained in 5th, while Jarkko Mikkonen was slowly being caught by Bruno Marquez. It was clear that the NetRex cars were carrying a far greater straight line speed in comparison to precision, and eventually Marquez made a simple pass up Mikkonen's inside to take 6th. Back to the midfield, and a mistake from Tali allowed Morand to get a good run on the MacCord driver and then pass him into the final hairpin. But 2 laps later, the Frenchman made a bad mistake, losing control on the curb and spinning off onto the grass, hitting the Armco with enough force to crush his suspension. At the back of the pack, a spin from Reino Room had De Angelis and Pumalainen narrowly missing his out-of-control car, and 2 laps later, De Angelis' race ended, with the Italian putting his foot down too quickly out of the hairpin and slamming his faster-than-speed car into the barrier. Jon-Erik Saxon then made an outside pass around Patrick de Wit for 11th position, but a mistake from Saxon saw him lose control over the curb on the exit of turn 2, dropping him well down the order to 16th place. After a failed passing attempt into turn 1, Poniatowski and de Wit made contact, allowing Jack Keithley to move in between the battling cars. Unfortunately, on the following lap, Poniatowski and Keithley collided through turn 2, with both cars spinning out. The following cars did a great job of taking avoiding action, with no further contact made, though Keithley now had a damaged car, and both he and Poniatowski dropped down into 16th and 17th places respectively. After very persistent driving, Fredrik Nilsson eventually got close enough to David Greco to get his car into the slipstream and make the pass for third place. Both the Twister cars were now in a podium position, but Bono Huis continued to lead the Grand Prix, increasing the gap over Kirchhoff lap by lap. Having recovered from his earlier spin, Saxon had now caught back up to de Wit, and after some unnecessary contact, de Wit outbroke himself into the hairpin, allowing both Saxon and Puumalainen to get through. At the midpoint of the race, the pit stops saw several position changes. Kirchhoff pitted early in the hope that the fresh rubber would help him leapfrog Huis, but the strategy failed to work, Huis comfortably emerging in first position. Conversely, an early stop worked well for David Greco, just managing to beat Fredrik Nilsson into turn 1 to retake his third place. Mikko Puumalainen got himself back up into the top 10, leapfrogging Jon-Erik Saxon, and Alafot passed de Wit in the pits to move up into 12th. De Wit also lost out to Ghost Speed driver Jim Paresis, but after a brief fight with both drivers swapping positions, de Wit eventually came out on top in 13th place. With his tyres 2 laps younger than Kirchhoff's and a lead of 3 seconds, Huis was able to control the race with ease in the closing stages. Fredrik Nilsson remained close behind David Greco, but Greco's perfect driving was giving Nilsson no opportunities to make a pass. However, in 5th, Disley was being reeled in by Bruno Marquez through the second stint, and on lap 46, Marquez made an outside pass look easy on the too fast for you driver. A small mistake from Disley then fed him right into the hands of Jarkko Miekkinen, with Dennis Hurl close behind. Despite being faster, Miekkinen could not quite get close enough to the Australian to make a passing attempt, and having spent nearly the entire race stuck behind the Precision Motorsports driver, Hurl made a bold move onto Miekkinen into turn 1. Miekkinen held on to the outside and maintained his position out of turn 2, but Hurl then made a classy outside pass through turn 3 to take 7th place. Winning all 5 races so far this year, Bono Huis continues to dominate the 2011 season, adding the Malaysian Grand Prix to his already long list of conquered circuits. a.k.a. Kirchhoff finished close behind in 2nd place, getting onto the podium for the first time this year, and David Greco continued his strong start of the season, finishing in 3rd. A slightly disappointed Nilsson crossed the line in 4th, and the Netrex cars of Marquez and Hurl finished in 5th and 7th, separated by Disley, who held on to 6th position in the closing stages. A long way off his usual pace, Jarkko Miekkinen could only manage 8th, and a difficult weekend for the McCourt team ended with Tali taking 9th and Puumalainen 10th. Jon-Erik Saxon finished just outside the points ahead of Alafot and Karol Poniatowski. De Wit narrowly held on to 14th in the final laps ahead of Jim Paresis, who despite finishing last had shown significant improvement. So the drivers' standings then have Huis on an incredible 125 points. Miekkinen is in 2nd with 65, just 2 points ahead of Greco. Nilsson, Puumalainen and Kirchhoff remain separated by just 6 points in the fight for 4th position. Tali is further behind with 28 points ahead of Saxon and Marquez. Hurl closes out the top 10 with 14 points. Precision Motorsports now have a 100-point lead in the Constructors' Championship, but Twister Racing have continued their impressive run to get up into 2nd place. Too Fast For You scored a good result at Malaysia, moving them ahead of McCourt, who have now dropped to 4th. Netrex have moved up again, now into 5th position ahead of Aero F1, who failed to score points for the first time this season. The next round will be the Spanish Grand Prix, and you can watch that race live as it happens. Simply go to www.psrtv.com on the 5th of June at 5:30 PM GMT. We hope you've enjoyed today's highlights. I'm Jack Nichols, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time for round 6 of the 2011 Formula SimRacing World Championship.